Hi everybody, Armoured Pants here and welcome back to a new tank review, and this is the T110E3, which is the US Tier 10 TD, and it is a super TD, I have to say. I was asked to do this video quite a few times, so eventually I have time now to get around to doing it. So welcome back and welcome to this new tank review. As always, we're going to have a look at all the details, tech spec, you name it. And you know, I think it's important that we will look at all of the aspects of this tank, both positive and negative. This is a monster TD for sure. It's a TD you can also go front line in because it's really heavily armored. I mean, really heavily armored. And this is a great asset to the tank. Obviously, you can play the traditional TD role as well, as going front line and supporting your heavies. It can even take the role of a heavy tank if required, and you're going to get a lot of steel wall badges in this tank because it really has a phenomenal armor profile. But obviously we need to be aware of its limits. It's not OP, it's not all powerful, it has some limitations, and we look at those when we look at the tech spec. Now, it has a 155mm gun. In terms of setting it up, I would run Coca-Cola, improved fuel, and case of Coke. I would run gun rammer, then refined gun and supercharge. Obviously you need to run camo net. I would run enhanced armor, enhanced tracks, and then I will run high-end consumables. And the reason I'm going to run high-end consumables is because I'm going to run two time-dependent consumables, which is adrenaline, and there is this improved engine boost, which I'm going to use too, and then I'm going to use your multi-purpose restoration pack as well. So the three consumables I'm going to run, but that's what I'm going to run. Normally I run consumable delivery system, but this time I'm going to run high-end consumables because we've got two time dependent, so you're going to get additional seconds of the boosts, which is pretty good. Now in terms of the gun, you have AP, APCR and HE. You can run gun rammer, which will give you 13-second reload because you get really high pen on the shells anyway. AP is going to give you 295 millimeters of pen, APCR 375, and HE is going to give you 90, which means you're going to pen all light tanks and most medium tanks on the side and back as well. And you get the improved reload then as well. In terms of muzzle velocity, it's 11.31 meters per second for AP and HE, and APCR is going to give you 14 meters per second in terms of muzzle velocity. So the muzzle velocity is pretty low actually, it's not that high, it has to be said. So that is one of the drawbacks of this tank. In terms of its gun depression, it has 8 degrees of gun depression, 16 of elevation, which is pretty good. Its turn traverse speed is actually pretty okay. It has an aiming arc of plus minus 12, so 24 degrees in all, so that's quite limited. Forward speed is 43 kilometers an hour, backwards it's 20, but it has a poor power to weight ratio on all types of terrain. Traverse speed is also pretty poor, but that's what you expect from a turretless TD. But its forward speed is actually 43, so it's not that slow. And if you use the improved engine boost, you can really move in this thing over short periods. And this is a real benefit, particularly if you want to go front line, or if you're being attacked in a brawling situation. If you hit this, it changes the characteristics of the tank completely. In terms of its concealment numbers, well, if you take 324 meters view range, which is the best in tier 10, its concealment numbers are pretty good. It stays concealed to 231 meters. Although if you fire, you blow 35 meters, so it goes up to 267.8. But all in all, pretty good concealment numbers, especially when you're still. So also bear that in mind if you're playing the traditional TD role of just sitting at the back. In terms of the gun, you know, okay, the muzzle velocity is low, but the gun handling isn't bad. And you're rolling, you know, 640 average damage your AP, 545 with APCR and HE. If you pen fully with HE, it's going to give you 960, rolling up over 1,000 sometimes, which is a massive roll for you know, even at tier 10. And if you can land on a lightly armored tank in this, I mean, if you see grills or waffle tractors in these things, you can eat them up all day long. You can do massive damage with the rounds from this thing. In terms of its armor profile, we're looking at it here, right? The armor profile is amazing. You can see here, it's virtually impenetrable from the front on the turret, because you know you've got massive gun mantle. Gun mantle can't be penned. It takes up a huge space on top of the turret. Even this cupola on top is very heavily armored, and a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that the cupola can be penned easily. It cannot. It's a small target and it's armored, so it's difficult to pen. The bottom plate on the armor on the hull is a little bit more vulnerable and can be penned, but again, it's not lightly armored. It is heavily armored. It needs careful aiming, and a lot of the time the enemy will need to use pramo as well, so you will get bounces in this tank. You can side scrape in this tank, although you are limited by its 24-degree arc movement, but you can side scrape it and you're going to get bounces. But really it's a tale of two different tanks, right? Because front on it's a monster, but behind it's very vulnerable, as you saw there. It can be penned very, very easily and can be rolled for massive HE or HESH rounds. Looking at it here now in World of Tank Inspector, because I also want to show you the cutaway so we can have a look at the modules and crew. Another advantage of this tank is that the ammo rack is really well protected. It's behind armor and behind the tracks on the side. Very difficult to reach front on, can only be reached side on, and then you have to go through the tracks and the armor, so difficult to be ammo racked in this. The fuel tank, as you can see, is also well protected, as is the engine, so also difficult to damage the fuel, to set this on fire, and also to I mean, if you're front on, obviously from the back it's vulnerable, as we said. Difficult to hit the fuel, difficult to hit the engine too. Also the driver, the crew, the gunner, the commander are all pretty well protected, so you can be pretty much safe there. You're not going to, of course your crew will be hit, but they're not going to be hit as often as they are in other tanks. You can see here the crew in place, and there's the modules. The modules are all low, they're all down behind armor and well protected, and you're very rarely going to ammo racked in this tank. But with that gun you're going to do a lot of ammo racks. When I was shooting the videos for this, I ammo racked countless tanks, mediums, IS-7s, you name it. I ammo racked it in this tank. The gun is really powerful and a really impressive weapon. So overall, in terms of its modules and crew protection, it's pretty good in this tank. Again, another reason why it is a formidable tank. But in terms of going front line, it has one major disadvantage, right? And that is its hit points. It only has 1800 hit points. And if you consider that you're going to go front line at tier 10 up against some really monster hit point pools like the E100 and the mouse, you can be anything from 1000 plus, like 1200 against the mouse, hit points down, right? That's a lot of hits. So even if you're trading blows on an equal footing and bouncing shots on equal footing, they're still going to out DPM you because they've just got more hit points. So that is a disadvantage of going front line in this tank. But otherwise, all things being equal, this tank is really good. Also, because you've got some really nice high alpha rolls on this tank and a decent rate of fire, 13 seconds for those big high alpha rolls is not bad at all. This tank is pretty good in end game too. And what I mean by that is that if there's a number of tanks left and they're below 700 damage points, you can easily take them out with one shot in each one. And if they're lightly armored, if they're below 1000, you can take them out with one shot with HE round. So, you know, overall this tank is really strong, impressive, and can do a very good job if played correctly. If, of course, you go out on a limb, if you get isolated, if you get circled to death, because we saw the back and sides of the tank have virtually no armor, then you can have a very short game. But if you play to its strengths, you can have very effective games in this tank, and I have to say I really like it. And as I said, rolling that enhanced engine boost really changes the characteristics and the handling of the tank. Now, on a map like Normandy, as we look at the gameplay here, I am going to D, and the reason is that this allows me to go frontline on this map, right? I can capture the base, I used my enhanced engine boost to get there relatively quickly. And now we can go front on to the enemy, and this is where this tank excels, front on, right? Now I'm going to take one hit here, but then after that you can see I'm going to just get bounces. You know, and I'm adopting a strategically important position on this map, right? I'm seizing this key part of this map. This corner here is really important on this map. If you seize it and can hold it, you can control the whole top half of this map and force the enemy into making mistakes as they do here. And as long as they're front onto you, you can really, and you're angling up, hiding the plate when possible, kind of half side scraping here, half hiding the plate, you know, half peek-a-boom, which is kind of unusual with such a slow moving tank. This tank really excels. And I've got my team. My team are playing well too. They're here with me as well. And we're able to hold this corner. Now the Reds understand that, and they're flanking, right? Their meds are flanking. And I have a decision to make here. I decide to turn and face them because really I can't let them flank me, because if they get in behind you, it's game over. And it doesn't matter how good a player you are. You know, you cannot, it doesn't matter how good or experienced a Blitz player you are, you can change the dynamics of this tank. You cannot, you see what I mean there, being able to clear off when there is a small pool of hit points left, even on a big heavy like the FV. You can't change the dynamics of this tank. You can't make it traverse faster, you can't make it move faster, you can't make it reverse faster, you can't make it reload faster, right? So you know, you will come into difficulties. But if you can control the enemy and keep them in front of you, as I've tried to be doing this game, you can have a very effective game. Now here I'm very reluctant to move out, because as we said at the start of the game, going into the open on this tank is very, very dangerous. Because you're slow moving and you're so vulnerable at the back, if you let the Reds get in behind you, even a heavy tank is going to outmaneuver you, and you've no traverse, and it can be game over. So I'm very reluctant to go out into the open, especially when I don't know where all the Reds are. Now I know where they are, so now we can do that with a bit more alacrity. We can go out and we can take them on. And you see here the 8 degrees of gun depression, lovely shot in the K91, clear him off. And now I'm going to go and capture C, because I know we are behind on points. It's 2-2 now. I also want to draw out the T62A, because I know he's left and I don't want him coming up behind me. I also want to get close to my ally, the T57, so he can protect my back. T62 saw there what happened. I was going to take him out. T57 tracks him, spins him, and I miss my shot. But I lost out in a kill here, but because the T57 is reloading, I'm actually able to get a kill here on the FE, so I get 5 kills on the Radley Walters medal in the end. I hit the adrenaline because I want to get that last kill. I feel there's a mastery badge coming on, and sure enough, when I get this kill, there will be one delivered. Again, another bounce. You can see there's some nice bounces in this game. We can see there almost 6k damage, almost 2k bounces, so almost 8k of net damage, which even at tier 10 is impressive. And that's what this tank can do. And I thought, you know, this game is very illustrative of the strengths of this tank and how to play it well. Also, you know, my thinking during the game illustrates the drawbacks of the tank, and in particular, its biggest drawback is being exposed in the open. As long as you can protect your back and back onto something, and not let tanks get in behind you, can have fantastic games in this tank. You can also see in this game that a great example of it going front line. And of course it plays the traditional TD role of sitting at the back well too. And what I'd actually recommend for you guys is at the start, play it cautiously, sit at the back, support your allies, and as you become more familiar with the tank, its gun handling and its maneuverability, or lack thereof, you can go front line and have some very effective games and really influence and have a lot of fun with this tank. So guys, I hope you found this video useful. I hope you found it enjoyable. I hope you will be able to then roll out your T110E3 and have some fun. So guys, I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it enjoyable. Now I guess all remains for me to say is, as always, pants off.